Welcome to Keeping Up with Our Community, a podcast for and about Romeo Community Schools. Each week, we will invite different guests to share insights about some unique aspects of our schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. They can get you access to equipment, a production engineer, and you can even edit your podcast. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan, and you can contact them right now via email at mit.tvromeo@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvromeo@gmail.com. Hello, my name is Marianne Brush, and I serve as the Communications and Marketing Supervisor for Romeo Community Schools. It is my pleasure to introduce Episode 12 of the Keeping Up with Our Community Schools podcast. Today's episode will focus on Romeo Middle School's culture and their Be Romeo campaign. We are accepting, we are responsible, and we are engaged. We are one, as well as the work with the Association of Middle Level Education. I will now turn it over to Jennifer McFarland, Assistant Superintendent of Academic Services, to host this episode, beginning with introducing our guests.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our podcast with the Romeo Middle School administrative team, minus one. Mr. Bartlett is holding down the fort at Romeo Middle School dismissal. So, Mr. Martz, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your stay at Romeo Middle School and how long you've been with us.
Well, thanks. It's great to be back here in this podcast. So I've been at Romeo Middle School for assistant principal and principal since about 2000, and I always forget the date, 2010, starting at the Romeo Middle School on Prospect, and back finally over to the building on 32 Mile Road. And so it's been a great adventure as we kind of progress and kind of keep moving through the district.
The next person I'd like to introduce is Mr. Stephen Emile. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your time in Romeo and what you've been doing?
Okay, hello. I am the veteran of the group. I've been in Romeo for 29 years. I taught kindergarten for 7 years, middle school PE for about a year and a half, and spent a majority of my time at Powell Middle School before transferring to the Romeo Middle School when we made the transformation.
29 years.
It's a long time.
I think that was back when it was Rams and Panthers or something like that, right?
Not quite. Pretty close, though.
So the third part of the administrative team that is joining us is Mrs. Caitlin Ebert. I'll let her tell you about herself.
Hi there. So this is my 13th year in the district. I guess 14 if you count student teaching. So I did my student teaching at Romeo Middle School, and then I was very fortunate to get hired over at Powell Middle School, and I taught there for 7 years. I taught 8th grade American History and Language Arts. The end of my 7th year, I actually went back over to the old Romeo Middle School to start the assistant principal position. And this is year 6, so a couple years at the old building, and then knowing that we were coming together to become one on the 32 Mile campus.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. So thanks for that lead in to our first question. So you've been at your current location for 4 years now. We knew about the merging of Powell and Romeo Middle into the 32 Mile campus before that. So would someone please share kind of what planning took place, what kind of thinking about how do you take two very different staffs as well as student populations and think about merging them into one building and having a middle school over 1,100, almost 1,200 students?
So I think I've been saying 5 years that we've been at Romeo 32 Mile campus, but I think it's been 4 years. I've been trying to say that 5 years for about 4 years now. But the whole process kind of started off with being one. We are one, and kind of merging the two buildings together. And merging, we had all these great plans of team building and doing all these amazing things. I was over with Mr. Emile hanging out at his building talking to the staff, and Mrs. Ebert was working in the Romeo Middle School as assistant principal. And all these team plans, and all of a sudden COVID hit. And it shut kind of everything down. We started going remote, and we tried to put her together during the times of looking at cameras and TVs and talking to each other remotely. So it got very interesting very quickly.
I remember that was in the spring of March of 2020, and even some of your teachers had like an hour to pack their classrooms because things were happening construction wise too. So some of your plans did get derailed a little bit, but you were able to open with some students in person in that fall of 2020. So tell us a little bit about thoughts that went in to unify the staff and also build some structures for the students that would be in the building. I think that kind of fell into the idea of we are accepting, we are responsible, we are engaged. Mrs. Ebert, do you?
Yeah, COVID definitely forced us to just make that leap and dive deep. And, all of us thought that, we're going to be back in about 2 weeks. And before you knew it, it was the rest of that school year. And we were trying to navigate all the COVID protocols into the following school year. So that really did just kind of rip the Band-Aid off, where the staffs from both schools ended up just trying to collaborate and all navigate what are we doing in this, because no one really knew what the next step was going to be. But then with that, even prior to COVID, that school year when we were still the two separate buildings, we spent a lot of time coming together as both staffs, and we would rotate between the two buildings to have our professional development opportunities with that thought process of we are going to be together the following school year. And the big thing that we focused in on was our overarching expectations that we have for our school, and we spent a lot of time coming together as a staff to figure out what those were going to be. And so that's how we narrowed down to we are accepting, we are responsible, we are engaged. We are one was definitely that theme, bringing the two buildings together at the time. And then Be Romeo as well. And Mr. Emil can kind of give us a little more history on the Be Romeo aspect.
So as the historian here and the veteran, I will talk about that. So I'm sure most of you that are listening have heard of Greg Breinert. He's a legendary retired athletic director from Romeo Middle School, or from Romeo High School. And that was Greg's saying. It really was a great catchphrase and mantra for the district, the Be Romeo. And that was, kind of talking about just an overall theme and the expectations that we have that reflect our community. So Be Romeo just really seemed like a great place to start with that. And, the things that Mrs. Ebert had mentioned just a few minutes ago really fit well underneath that. So if you hear Be Romeo, Greg Breinert really should have copyrighted that saying because it's used a lot.
Yes, it is.
And it evolved into hashtag Be Romeo. So
Yeah, and now the hashtag's off and it's on
Yep.
our superintendent's.
I was going to say, even on license plates too.
Yes, it's everywhere.
Yeah. So, can you share a little bit about those values of we are accepting, we are responsible, we are engaged? How do middle school staff members and students work with one another to practice those skills and highlight those strengths of those characteristics?
I think it really kind of started off with our positive behavior and support system they have in place, or PBIS, which kind of capsizes or captures those statements in there. And so you have lots of opportunities for those students to be engaged. If you look at the classroom, we have Kagan structures that we do where the kids are talking to each other, working together in cooperative groups, all the way to athletics and clubs. We have a stage, we have drama plays that happen, and the more we have our kids engage with us, the more they do with the building and each other, the better off they are in the system. So it's a great opportunity for those guys to really be engaged, and that kind of starts the whole process of getting them involved in school.
Are there any things you do at the beginning of the year with our incoming sixth graders that are coming from 5 different elementary schools and possibly even some private schools or parochial schools that they may have attended previously to really indoctrinate them? That's a bad word, but kind of get them
Introduce
into
them
thank
to-
you
yeah.
of what Romeo Middle School is all about.
Well, we even start that before their sixth grade year starts. Actually, just a couple weeks ago, we had the 5th graders in. Each elementary school came on a different day during the week, and we introduced them to the building itself. Our 8th grade leadership students come in, and they basically run the show. It's kind of nice. I get to step back and just see it all come into play. But between myself and our 6th grade counselor, we spent some time talking about like the structure of the school day, scheduling, and then we really handed it over to our leadership students so that they could introduce our incoming 6th graders to the building itself and what we do expect of our students when we're here. We were even handing out our tickets, which is an incentive that we do in our building to those 5th graders while they were here. So that process starts even before they're done with 5th grade. And then moving into their 6th grade year, we have Bulldog Days before school starts, so mid-August, where, they get to come in and actually see what their schedule looks like. And then we move into our first week of school, and we do some welcome week activities to introduce them to, our overarching themes of accepting, responsible, engaged, and what that looks like inside and outside of the classroom.
And I would assume that's an ongoing effort even throughout the year with even current students that would be 7th and 8th graders to continue to highlight and work on maybe some areas that they may need some continuous improvement in.
Well, and the nice thing is amongst our staff, we do weekly meetings. Our grades are divided into teams. So, for example, 6th grade has 3 teams. And those team of teachers, that group will meet each week so that we can sit down and the assistant principals, counselors, we all sit in with those so that we can talk about either individual student needs or what they're seeing as a whole group. So a lot of times those conversations will then result in us acting upon something that we're seeing. I know for like our current 6th graders, I've brought our groups in, brought teams in at a time into the cafeteria just to have some team talks. If we see something, some kind of theme that's coming up, whether it's being nice to others or what have you, to have that opportunity to address the things that we're seeing or to recognize the positive things that we're seeing as well too.
Yeah, but teaming is really a helpful structure in a building that size. And it kind of leads into our next topic, our next part 2 of our discussion around the Association of Middle Level Education, AMLE, and the 18 characteristics of a successful middle school. And I know we have been working with them at the middle school for the past few years, and we've brought in several different people to come in and talk about the young adolescent and even teaming in general. And I remember just this past November, seems like a long time ago, but Jack Berkmeyer came in and he talked about 3 different times in the year that you can reset those expectations for students. And so I'm sure your teams having the opportunity to meet weekly about some of those issues can even reset quicker than the 3 times of the year. So let's talk about our intentionality in working with an organization that is research-based. It's, I think, going into its 51st year.
Yes.
They celebrated their 50th year this past November to support the work. We kind of focused in on professional development first, and then we looked into this assessment they had around those 18 characteristics. And so our staff took the assessment last October, I think, of 22. And I know that the team, your teacher leaders, the administrative team, really dug into the results of that survey and that assessment. And what were some of the highlights, Mr. Martz, that you might share that came out of the staff assessment that were either we're doing a great job in this area, and maybe some areas that bubbled up that we wanted to address in one way or the other?
Yeah, it's great support having AMLE with us. As we all know, middle school adolescents are a different student. They're kind of a little quirky. That frontal lobe is not all the way developed. We're still working on a lot of different things. But with the support of AMLE, we really kind of dive in and understand what that student looks like. And so there's the culture and community area, curriculum instruction and assessment, and leadership organization are the 3 big characteristics that they work with. And so we surveyed our staff, like you said, and our parents and our students. And it was very interesting because they almost kind of all showed the same things. We're so lucky and blessed to be in Romeo. The culture and community here is amazing. And again, it showcased in our surveys of being one of the top ones in all 3 areas of the culture and community. Just being supportive and being there for our students and our families. And one thing that did show up there is our work with our community. Getting a chance for our students to be working with our community partners and different issues like that did kind of show itself a couple of times in all 3 areas of having the opportunity to work with community members.
I think we have a plan for that.
And
we'll talk about a little later.
We do. And so we're very excited that because we're taking this data and information we have and kind of putting it to use here in our building. And so that's going to be a very great thing for us to kind of work with. Leadership and organization, making sure people have the idea of where we're heading and where we're going, and making sure that communication is clear, not just only to our stakeholders, all of them, right? So you're talking about the community members and the parents and even our families here that may not be attending Romeo Middle School right now to showcase what we're doing and where we're heading with them. And that was one thing that showcased or popped up a couple different times inside that survey, is making sure people have a clear understanding of our mission or vision and where we're heading to. And then some curriculum stuff. Movement for kids was a big thing, getting movement in the day. Adolescents do not let this sit still. I do not like to sit still. I'm kind of bouncing over here as we talk right now. But really having that ability in the classroom to be able to have that movement and in the classroom to help our instruction wise.
So I think when we think about the leadership structure that you have at the middle school, just a few years ago, it wasn't what it currently is. So Steve, why don't
Sure.
you tell us a little bit about what has the addition of a third assistant principal allowed your team to be able to focus on and do?
So a 1,200 student middle school is a large middle school, and one thing that adding the third AP has allowed us to do is each AP works with a specific grade level. And obviously, if anyone else needs help, we can work it with a different grade level. But it's allowed us to focus on building relationships with not only students that are in our specific grade, but also the staff that work with those students. So we are, a regular member of what we call SLC meetings, which are smaller learning community meetings that Mrs. Ebert had mentioned earlier. And, it's all about building relationships with not only those kids, but those staff members that you're working with. And it's pretty amazing at those SLC meetings. Everyone has different levels of relationships with different people, but it's amazing, that together we're an expert on kids. And it's amazing what some people know about kids that you don't, even kids that you talk to on a daily basis. So it's really been beneficial to hone in on one grade level specifically and build relationships with those kids and teachers.
Yeah, I think that structure and that ability to have one per grade level is really, I think, been able to move us forward a little bit faster than when we had just you and Miss Ebert.
Yeah, it was pretty much,
Yeah.
next man or next
Triage.
woman up.
Right.
We're putting out fires on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And it did make it tough to build relationships
It did.
with kids. It's much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mr. March, you had mentioned about the young adolescent is a different person than I think typical, elementary or high school students. So what are some of the things that the middle school teachers and administrators, either professional development or just the work that they've done to be able to engage and be successful teaching young adolescents?
So we had a couple of presenters from AMLE come in and work with us on the adolescent mind and really kind of diving into how the mind works and where they're at and physically, mentally, the whole 9 yards. They're just developing at different ages and they're all in different kind of stages there. The big things that would came out from there is the ability to do teaming. And we really kind of do a big thing with teaming. Mr. Meal talked about relationships, and to be able to have a student belong to something is absolutely amazing. It makes you want to show up to school. It gives you some ownership in what's going on and what's happening. So teaming is one thing we're continuing to work on it, to have that team identity to what you belong to and what you're doing. So teaming is one big thing that we kind of fell out of that or developed out of that was built the middle school here at 32 Mile Road.
And with that, for teaming, just an idea of what that looks like. Each student is placed on a team and their core teachers, so math, social studies, ELA, science, are what make up that team. So if you're placed on that team, every kid that's in that particular group has the same 4 teachers for their core areas. So again, it's nice because it builds up on that relationship and the teachers and the students get to know each other. Like we said, we have almost 1,200 kids in our building. That's a very large middle school. So we don't necessarily want to throw our kids, be a small fish in a big pond. We want to try and make that, a smaller networking community. And then we also have advisory too, which is a smaller chunk. Currently, we have it during our 3rd hour period. It's a 30-minute session, but those are even smaller groups. We have, approximately 20, low 20s number of students in those classes. And that's an opportunity to build relationships with kids that are on your team and with a teacher as well. So you at least have some connections or can start to build those connections with other people So those are some of those structures that we put in place.
And we get to have fun too. If you talk about our fun Fridays that we have, and kids being able to go to the larger spaces that we have to do different games. We had limbo contests that happened between our teams. So even the fun things that we got to do to kind of bring our kids back and give them something else to happen in school day.
And I think the idea of the teams and being able to take that large building and try to make it smaller and create those communities of both adults and students, to build that identity and belonging is really important for kids that age. Can you maybe respond to the idea about what's next as far as working with young adolescents? What are some exciting things that may be on the horizon, either this year or in the future, at 32 Mile?
Well, one of the things I alluded to earlier was that ability to work with community members. We're super excited to start a transformation here at Romeo Middle School, bringing our community partners and working with philanthropy groups for our students. And Miss Ebert came up with 3 little words with E's that helped us out with what are those 3 words again that you came up with?
Mr. Martz, what are those 3?
Engage, I believe, something in that nature.
Nope, not for 6th grade.
Not for 6th grade. So where
Explore, empower, and engage.
So if you think of those terms, exploring and figuring out what's going on in our community, what's happening, and then learning more about philanthropies there, that engage one coming in and actually working with them, our community members, and finally empowering, doing a community service project. Our kids are so excited to learn and change the world right now. They may not know how to do it, but they want to make a change. You want to make a difference. And so hopefully we can support that transition of helping them support and change what's going around them, which is amazing. So we're super excited about that process coming up and what that's going to look like in the next coming years.
I know we touched upon that at, I don't know if it was episode 10, I believe.
I believe you're right.
And with Mr. Scott Palmer and Rich Bojo, our academy coach at the high school, but we really talked a lot about it's not just that piece of work that will actually transform. You know, the idea is to continue to work on our teaming structures and continue to work on the other things that we found within the AMLE assessment for the 18 characteristics of a successful middle school. So it's really merging two processes of the Fort NGL kind of, roadmap and framework with AMLE, which is very unique. There aren't any other communities in the globe or in the U.S.
Yes.
that are attempting this. So I'm really, really hopeful the work that we're doing could set some structures and systems for other communities that are interested in looking at doing middle school differently, I would say. So it's April. I know that the last 12 weeks, 10 weeks or so, the school year are really hectic, being a former middle school principal. So what are some things on the plates of you as administrators, teachers, and students to finish out the year? Mr. Emil, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'll start with our clubs and activities. One of my responsibilities, I'm the athletic director and also in charge of clubs in our school. And we are getting ready to start our track season in a couple days, weather pending. We'll have most likely 125 to 150 kids starting to participate in track. We also have intramural basketball and volleyball that is getting ready to start up. So kind of a busy week for us to make sure that we have all the details worked out so those seasons can run smoothly. I know that we are also sending a rather large group of 8th graders to Washington, D.C. next week. And Mr. Martz, I don't know if you want to add anything to that. You know a little bit more about the Washington, D.C. trip because you've been on it.
Yeah, it's our second time, so we're excited about that. Happy. I wouldn't say 5 years, but at least this is our second year of doing that. It's a great experience for our kids to venture into D.C. It's absolutely amazing to watch. And right now, if you show up at Romeo Middle School, what's happening in our backyard of the building right now is complete. I have excavators and front-end loaders and off-road dump trucks all running around the back parking lot with a big fence, because we are in the process of putting a new parking lot back there, a new STEM building, which is going to house robotics. Hopefully it'll be done in January-ish, and also a football field back there for our students. So our kids will be able to actually play games at Romeo Middle School. So we have a little bit of growing pains right now back there, and traffic so far is working out. We have the Take the Bus campaign happening at Romeo Middle School to try to keep as many cars out of our parking lot as possible right now. So we're working on that. With that big kind of growing pain comes some end-of-year celebrations where we're working with Parks and Rec and Washington Township to find some parking spaces for our parents on our events that are happening. So it's kind of put a little hitch in things, but the end in mind is going to be amazing to have our kids on the campus and have that field and that facility back there. And I know Miss Ebert is right now is really working on the master schedule and looking at next year and what that looks like, because right now we actually start planning for next school year, for the start of our kids come back in August. So I know she is neck deep or knee deep or everything else you can say, getting student requests in there of what that looks like for next year.
Yeah, if you see the inner workings of the four of us as an administrative team, for some reason, I always get the logistical things.
You like puzzles.
Correct.
Yeah,
You
apparently.
like puzzles.
So yes, we do have spring testing on the horizon. That's always fun time. So I work hand in hand with our counselors to make sure that our schedules for PSAT, MSTEP, NWEA are all set and ready to go, so that we have smooth days ahead when it comes to those testing days. And then scheduling, yeah, we're already thinking about the next year. Seems like as soon as you feel comfortable in a school year, you're already looking ahead to the following year. So we've already, between myself and the counselors have received course requests from our incoming sixth graders and then our current sixth and seventh graders for next school year. And I get the task of starting to build that master schedule. How many classes of each section do we need, and all of that fun stuff. And then before we know it, it'll be the end of the school year. And we always like to, send our kids off with a bang, have some end of year activities and have some fun, like Mr. Martz likes to put into our day-to-days.
Yeah,
You like fun, don't
we
you?
try to make as much fun as we can because it's school. It's supposed to be fun, right?
That's right.
And some of those activities may look a little different without a parking lot and a back 40, but
Some of those activities might look different today than they did yesterday or 2 days ago.
Correct.
So it's
correct. So the idea of engaging our partners in the community of Parks and Rec in Washington Township to try to lean on their resources that we
Yeah.
may be able to access,
We live in a
because
great community that
we do.
we have the ability to lean on other people when we need help and make sure things get taken care of for our kids here in the district. So it's awesome to be surrounded by these individuals from Romeo.
Yeah. So our episode 11, if people, our listening audience, haven't gone and listened to episode 11, we had student leaders.
They did such an awesome job.
Thank you.
We just keep bringing them back. You
Thank
don't
you.
need to hear the adults talking. Let's bring the kids back.
Man, like there's hope, right?
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you want to share about, noticing that you've been able to celebrate with students in the building?
So I would say one thing that we can celebrate is one of our goals when we did the merger was to provide opportunities for kids outside of school. We currently have 38 different clubs/teams that kids can participate in after school, and we actually ran the math today, and as of so far this year, we've had over 1,100 kids participate, 1,100 participants. Some of those kids might participate in more than one thing, but we have a majority of our kids are
awesome.
participating in something, and that those always are evolving. And as people have ideas or different skill sets, maybe someone that we hire has a different skill set, maybe we can add to that list.
Yeah, I know some of the clubs are really unique, like a board games club
Yeah.
and some different things.
Yep.
So
Jazz
that's
club,
outstanding.
cross country, biting bulldogs.
Yeah, that's
You
awesome.
name it, we offer it.
And it's so exciting to see what our kids can do. We have a theater, and so we started plays, and we have musicals now that a middle school runs, and Wizard of Oz is happening here very, very soon, which we're super excited for. But the kids are running the whole thing from the boards upstairs to the backgrounds to everything. It's absolutely amazing what our students can do when we give them the opportunity. And I think you heard Mr. Meal and Miss Ebert both say that giving kids the opportunity to learn and explore is huge in the middle school. And the more opportunities we give them, the more chances we have them for opportunities to success, the better they do in school and life and the whole 9 yards. So it's amazing to watch them what they can actually do.
Mrs. Ebert, anything to add about something that you notice or want to celebrate around our students or staff? We can give shout outs to staff as well.
Shout outs to staff. Well, one of our staff members, Miss Amanda Mazio, was named the Macomb County Teacher of the Year for middle school level.
Oh my God.
That was very
Man alive. So I'm in my office and Dr. Robinson, pokes his head in and he's like, "What are you doing tomorrow at such and such time?" I'm like, "Well, it depends. Like, I got a little bit of a window. I might have to move a meeting." He goes, "You'll never believe it." And so I screamed in celebration. And so my secretary's like, "Is everything okay?" I'm like, "You're not going to believe this." Such a huge honor for the number of middle schools or junior highs that are in the county for her to be selected as the county teacher of the year. It just speaks so highly of her.
So deserving.
And kids and her colleagues to nominate her. Just reading, I think there were 3 of her middle school colleagues that nominated her for the district award, and it was just so special to read what they had to say about her and what she does for our students as well. So
And if you don't know what her role is in the district, she is our English language learner teacher. So she works with that population of students, and she is the biggest advocate and gets supports for them, and anything that she can do to help meet their needs and to get them feeling settled here at Romeo Middle School. She goes above and beyond for it. So she is definitely deserving of that honor.
yeah, we had the pleasure. Mr. Mars reached out. He actually worked with her mother. That's how old he is.
Yeah.
And she was able to attend an assembly that was already scheduled. That was the
Oscars for the 6th grade Oscars. Yes.
And that was so awesome to have an auditorium filled with children and staff that were able to celebrate that together with her. And then her mom being there was really special.
I think we did a very good job of embarrassing her. She's a very, very humble person. I'll probably never hear the end of this because what we did to her in front of all those kids. So, but she's an amazing individual. So lucky to have her here in the district.
And you have many staff members
Oh my
that have
gosh.
dedicated themselves to middle school.
I would love to celebrate one additional
Please
member
do.
that's super important to our team. Our SRO, Officer Bauer, Patrick Bauer, Romeo grad. Guy's just amazing. We've had him in our building for 2 years. Just takes school safety so important, and he just takes it so seriously. But yet he has a friendly / jolly demeanor. I've heard him described as that. Just a smiling face when you walk in the door, and it's amazing the guy's memory and his ability to know kids
Correct.
and know what they like and even what they wear. And he's just been an amazing addition, and so valuable to have someone in that position and that knows family histories in the community. And if something happened over the weekend, he might be able to help those students out. So just a shout out to Officer Bauer. He's just been an amazing addition.
Well, and his relationship with students is just amazing.
Yes, correct.
He's not seen as someone that can't be approachable, and I just see him with kids all the time, and he plays dodgeball with them and does all sorts of activities.
He is very proudly wearing that joy chain.
Yes.
Oh,
I don't think he's taking it off.
Not taking it off.
He's our is it March?
Yes.
Joy chain or
correct.
April? March?
No, April.
April.
Right? Yeah, April.
April. Nice.
And he even goes far. I mean, his SRO vehicle, if you see it drive around town, the very back of the vehicle itself, it says "We Are One," and he has that in the back of his vehicle. I mean, just supporting of the school and the district and where we're heading here, the community first. And I think it's amazing to have these individuals in our lives.
Anything else? Any last words of wisdom or parting thoughts that you'd like our listeners to know about Romeo Middle School and what we're about? I know sometimes people are fearful of middle school children, but they're really outstanding and great.
We always say it takes a special group of people to work in a middle school.
Correct.
Or you might have to feel a little crazy
I
sometimes.
think
Just
the little
kidding,
crazy
just
part
kidding.
works.
But
out
you
better.
have think of the longevity of the middle school teachers in your building.
Yes.
They stay. They don't leave.
We do. And so we just have a great group of individuals that work here with our kids, and we're super proud of them. And we do what's best for our kids every day. And we try to make those gains and celebrate those relationships and days that we can have here at Romeo Middle School. So we're always looking to continue to be better. And I think the transformation will help us with that process of continue supporting our kids here in Romeo.
All right. Mrs. Ebert, any last thoughts or parting words?
I am just very blessed to have worked in this district as long as I have, and the relationships that we build with our staff members and our students. This is a very unique and special place to be able to work, and I am grateful for all of our staff members and the energy and the effort that they put in day out to build those relationships with our kids. You don't see that in every school.
Pretty remarkable. Mr. Emil?
Yeah, I would just go off of what Caitlin said. Just so fortunate to spend my career in Romeo. Actually met my wife in Romeo. She's a Romeo teacher, and we had 2 kids go through the system, K through 12, and I actually have a senior this year. So that's going to be a little bittersweet and a little bit different to not have an actual student in the school system that I'm working in. But it's just been an amazing experience here, and we love Romeo.
And so that's a consistent, I think, theme that we hear from community members, staff members, and families. And I think when we think about Be Romeo, it really embodies our community, our schools, and what we're about.
I agree.
So I'd like to thank you for your time today. And hopefully you might join another podcast as I was brainstorming some more ideas for us. So
Outstanding.
appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again to our host, Jennifer McFarland, and Romeo Middle School leaders, Brad Martz, Caitlin Ebert, and Steve Emile, for sharing their time and expertise with us today. It's really exciting to hear about the culture and structures in place to ensure every student's success. As we reach the 12-episode mark, I also wanted to take a moment to thank MidTV for giving us this opportunity to share the many facets of our school district from the perspective of those who know it best. Up next is a focus on fine arts, timed to coincide with our upcoming middle school and high school musicals and a K-12 student art show at Starkweather Arts Center. To find out dates and times, check out our social media. Thank you for joining us, and tune in next week to keep up with Romeo Community Schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. They can get you access to equipment, a production engineer, and you can even edit your podcasts. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan, and you can contact them right now via email at mit.tvromeo@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvromeo